Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and in this segment, I'm going to talk more about the coronavirus. Now, I'm going to put my spin on what this coronavirus really is, because it's actually gone from people having a virus to Democratic politicians using it as a ploy to experiment with socialism. But I knew this. So the title of this morning's video is "The Coronavirus is an Experiment for Socialism." The coronavirus is an experiment for socialism. Now, shout out to people like Brandon Tate, Anthony Brian Logan. They've been hot on this issue. Reg the Bad Guy, he's been hot on this issue. But I'm going to get into this issue my way. Now, when we talk about capitalism, socialism, and of course communism, we are talking about economies. Now, usually when you deal with communism, you deal with the government in charge of everything. I mean, they are the central point to the economy. Now, why is that dangerous? It's dangerous because the people at the top are always the ones who are benefiting. Again, the people at the top are always the ones who are benefiting. Why? Because you live in a dictatorship. You look at Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Mussolini, Stalin. You know, a number of these individuals embraced Karl Marx, who was a German philosopher. Heck, you have American Democrats, professors, academia, who love Karl Marx. Then you have what we call socialism. Now, socialism is in between capitalism and communism. Now, socialism is not quite a dictatorship, but depending on who's in power, socialism could lean more left or could even lean more right. But it's not a total dictatorship. It's almost down the middle. But when you have capitalism, it's free market. And part of the free market is you have competition. Competition in every sector. But what the Democrats want, and Trump has fallen into some of this rhetoric as well, because he's trying to get elected. You have the Democratic politicians out here who don't want citizens to go back to work. The Democratic politicians want to give monies to everybody. Now, again, if you heard my past videos, I talked about UBI. UBI is Universal Basic Income. Now, when it comes to accepting anything from the government, you should be very, very leery of that, because the government wants to control you. Now, if you heard my video last week, I talked about drones being put in the air. And those drones were put in the air, particularly in places where there are a lot of social gatherings, basically to get infrared sources on you to see if you have symptoms of the coronavirus. And you have artificial intelligence. robotics. And when it comes to getting communism into effect, what do you have to do? You have to make everybody poor. And the way you make everybody poor is you have certain sectors. Let me give you an example. When it comes to shopping, you have Walmart. And what does Walmart do? Walmart will use its buying power and they'll buy up all the competition. Walmart will buy up all the competition. And if Walmart buys up the competition, you don't have any choices. So what you do to bring in communism, but you start off with socialism, you take away people's choices. And this has been happening for the past 20 years or more. Because in the United States, monopolies were illegal. There were antitrust laws. But you don't see companies abiding by the antitrust laws. And when it comes to the rules of justice, the rules of justice don't mean anything to anybody at the top. Again, hear me on this one. The rules of justice don't mean anything to the people in power. This is why individuals must go to their state capitals and protest. You need to know who your state, your local, and of course the federal government is. They cannot hold you hostage in your own house. You see, when it comes to laws in this country, there's God's laws and there's man's laws. And when man makes laws, man usually abuses power. You look at Fidel Castro. Again, you look at Mussolini and Stalin. Pol Pot, Mao Zedong. Because what you have to understand when it comes to a dictatorship, which that's what communism is, all of your rights are gone. And what's going on right now with this coronavirus is an experiment to socialism. You see, the Democratic politicians want the economy to fail so they can come up with something new. Again, that's called cloud and pivots. That's the strategy that they unveiled back in 1966. Want to collapse the system as we know it. And they want to come up with something new. Now again, you cannot trust academics. You cannot trust politicians. You cannot trust big corporations. Because big corporations own the media. They own the places where we shop. Big corporations are even putting money into your colleges. But at the end of the day, when it comes to freedom, we're losing more and more of our freedoms because we have individuals out here who don't believe in freedom, especially the millennials. And the reason why the millennials don't believe in freedom because they were brought up in Marxist homes. And these Marxists had college degrees. These Marxists were gullible to the system. And I'm talking about your Gen Xers and your baby boomers. And they raised their kids to be little Marxists. You look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But these little Marxists talk about how everybody is poor, but they come from rich backgrounds. Even Donald Trump came from a rich background. And Donald Trump, believe it or not, he is not a Republican. He ran on a Republican ticket, but he's not a Republican. Because Donald Trump gave money to the Hillary campaign when she was running against Obama in 2008. But when it comes to Donald Trump, he's better than Biden. Have to go with the lesser of two evils. Because if you get a Democrat in power with the socialist mindset, they're going to turn this country into a socialist country. And from there, it's going to become a communist country. And if you get a Democratic president in power, if there are a couple vacancies on the Supreme Court, the president will appoint liberal activist judges. Now, when I talk about liberalism, there are two types of liberalism. There's classic liberalism and there's progressive liberalism. What we have going on in this country is progressive liberalism. And in this country, we have the populated states that want to dictate their policies to the less populated states. This is where you come up with the term where people who aren't in the big cities tend to be more ignorant. But one thing you must understand when it comes to these cities out here, these sanctuary cities, they have a lot of illegal immigrants in them. And these illegal immigrants are criminals. And see, the Democrats get in power, they want illegal immigration. They want to hand over all the government programs to illegals. So the illegals will vote for them. But when it comes to the coronavirus, it's getting warmer. Of course, I'm here in the state of Indiana on my way to work, driving on Interstate 65 South. It's a little cool for May 5th, 2020. But nevertheless, the coronavirus should be settling down. But it's funny how I don't hear any numbers. Because from my point of view, with this coronavirus, I believe that the numbers have been skewed. I've always been skeptical of this coronavirus. They're talking about a vaccine, they're talking about testing. And if you take one of these tests, how do you know if these tests are accurate? Now, it might sound like I'm all over the place, but I always merge a lot of subtopics into a topic so you'll understand where I'm going with this information. Because this video is about how some politicians, particularly the Democratic politicians on the left, are trying to use the coronavirus as an experimental socialism program. Because, I'm saying this because it seems to me that some states want to push back the dates where they want to open. I know I live here in the state of Indiana. The state of Indiana was supposed to be open last Friday. It appears to me that they pushed everything back. Now, before I go on with the topic, if you protest peacefully. I don't want to report hearsay, but I'm going to report what I heard come out of Denver. And this came from one of my classmates. He said there was a protest in Denver, and one of the protesters carried an illegal firearm and got arrested. Folks, if you're going to protest, don't be like Antifa and the rest of these left-wing groups and find yourself in jail. Because this is what these leftist politicians want. They want to try to take your ability away to protest. And the way they're going to do that is by saying that, you see, they go out and protest, they cause a lot of violence. And then they're going to try to be racial with the protests by saying that the protests are started by the alt-right or white nationalists. You got to be very careful when you are doing God's work, and that's keeping us free. And see, these Marxists don't understand that this country for so long has fought against communism. But since the 60s, individuals who didn't go to Vietnam, went to college, and they were indoctrinated with the Marxist concepts. The Marxist concepts come from ideologies like feminism. We blame women for a lot of things. No, women have been co-opted by Marxism. They've been programmed. Because as part of going to communism, you have to indoctrinate your weakest link, and you have to kill off your strongest link. But when it comes to this coronavirus being used as a socialist mindset, right now, as a socialist platform, you have politicians on vacation, but they're thinking up ways to come up with how are we going to convince the smart American people that socialism is good. Well, number one, they don't want small businesses to open back up. You see, if you drain small businesses of all their money, or if big companies buy up all the small businesses, you only have certain places to work. And then to get rid of a lot of workers, you utilize artificial intelligence, automation, and you have certain fields that are open. When you usher in socialism, you allow the government to take away your freedoms by giving you money every month. And they're going to give you the money that they think you should have. Meanwhile, when we talk about the one percenters, you have people like George Soros, Bill Gates, and some of your Hollywood leftists out here who are in a 1% crowd, but they're talking about classism, but they want all the money for themselves so they can have power. Remember, in the United States, money is power. And see, when you take away the entrepreneurial spirit and force people out of work who are in small businesses, what do? You give them unemployment. And you make unemployment and other government goodies more pay for the individual who is just staying home because the incentive to go to work is lessened. Here's another way that the socialist mindset has come into play. Some grocery stores they have actually put control on how much meat you're supposed to buy. Because we had a meat plant, there was a meat plant in South Dakota that closed. And one of the big meat plants in the country, in Iowa, was closed. Now, Donald Trump, of course, signed an executive order to keep these meat plants open. And see, with that happening, they want to control what you eat. Some of them want you to become vegans. This is why they're so far left when it comes to the environment. They want to stop growth. They want you to live poor. And this is why this coronavirus is being used as an experiment. They want you to wear a mask. Now, I have a mask. I don't wear it, but this mask doesn't help. This mask doesn't help at all. But I have it just in case. I'm not going to wear it. This mask gets dirty. But at the end of the day, what I'm telling you is these individuals who are in the government, working for socialism, want you to continue to be sick. And really what they want to happen is they want to give you a vaccine that tracks everything you do. I wouldn't take a vaccine. Because anything that the government has its hands in, they want to control you. They want to control how you think, how you feel. The government already broke down the family. Because if you look at what's going on now, many of us are already in the mindset of welfare. This is why they elect politicians. Ones who are going to give them something. You have a number of people who are staying in right now. They're not doing any exercise. Some of them are overeating. Some people are bored. Now, boredom is a choice. You don't have to be bored. But for people who like entertainment all day, they don't do anything else with their lives except spend money on going to concerts, dining out, theater, travel, and shopping. And these are usually people on the left. But see, the left is going to hurt themselves as well. But see, when it comes to people in power and it comes to us, the people in power don't follow the rules. They make the rules to control we little people. And when you have a socialist government or dictatorship, you're going to have a lot more corruption in the government. We already have enough corruption now, and it's always happened. And what the mainstream media wants to do, they now want to come on to YouTube. I see Roland Martin out here. I've seen Don Lemon. And what they want to do is they want to control what we say. You see, here on YouTube, if you put out a message that's true, they skew your numbers as well. And they skew your numbers by not allowing your channel to grow. In other words, they skew your views, they skew your subscribers. And when it comes to YouTube, how one-sided it is. If you're a woman, all you got to do is play with your hair, say something sexual, and you're going to get views. If you're a man and you're speaking truth, you'll more or less get your channel flagged. Because it's people like me who are fighting for freedom they don't want in their way. But at the end of the day, when you have the socialist mindset, which a number of the millennials have, you allow the government to control you. And the government is very slick with how they do everything. And when it comes to the numbers out here with this coronavirus, you can't even trust the CDC. And with the socialist mindset, you have people, particularly your lawyers, your trial lawyers. They're going to make a lot of money when it comes to these trials. That's why you need tort reform. And another way they want to drive you to socialism is, let's use the word pre-existing conditions. If you have to go to the hospital and your condition is not important, they're going to let you die. This is why they want depopulation. And they want the elderly who take all the resources out of the system so they can live, but the people in power don't have that money for themselves. And I'm talking about the government, so they can spend on other special interest groups like unions. But when it comes to this coronavirus, I'm not saying that people aren't dying of something out there, because they are. Most likely it's the regular flu or pneumonia. But there really hasn't been any proof that this virus is real. Nobody knows where it came from except it came from China. They tell you the symptoms. I mean, you have Dr. Fauci and Dr. Burke every day using their expertise. But instead of telling you they don't know, they keep talking. And the way you go to a socialist country through the coronavirus is you keep moving the target of when your states are supposed to open up, and you keep making more and more laws. You keep your people at bay by threatening to put them in jail and make them pay fines. The government is there to protect your rights. They're not there to control you. But again, you have a number of people who are not educated and they believe in the government. Government's like a religion to them. And see, with people out of work right now, the government's cutting their own throat. Because without taxpayers, they don't get the revenue to fund their socialist programs. They don't get the revenue to redistribute wealth, because that is what universal basic income is. We want to keep everybody equal. And in every country, socialism keeps their people impoverished. Now, can I see true socialism or communism in this country? Well, when all the Gen Xers and the baby boomers who fight for freedom like myself die off, it could happen. And it's funny, with the Republicans, they talk about debt, but they're in it as well. This country has always had debt, because what the government does in this country is basically write a blank check. They print money, and when you print money, you basically lower the value of the dollar. Now, when it comes to this economy, it's going to take a long time for this economy to get back on its feet. But at the end of the day, when it comes to this country, people got to wake up and start protesting. Don't allow the government to control you. Because once you allow that, you have no more freedoms. I mean, they're already trying to regulate what we can say here on YouTube, and they don't want opposing views in the media. They allow feminism, and feminism is a form of Marxism. That destroyed families. They're allowing Cloward and Pivens. In other words, they're trying to collapse what we have as capitalism and start something different, so it'll be socialism. They're trying to put drones in there. They're using AI, robotics, so they don't have humans who are being paid to do the work. They have monopolies and duopolies, so we have less choices. Some of them want us to be obese because many of us get lazy during this time, so we don't work out. This is how they are co-opting socialism. They're indoctrinating kids in school, and at the end of the day, I'm asking you this question. Do you want freedom, or do you want a dictatorship? You make the call. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you want some science, technology, engineering, and math education, check out my newer channel, The Mind of STEM. And on that channel, I give you a daily dose of mathematics, engineering, science, technology. I talk about the subjects related to STEM. Also, you can check me out on Blog Talk Radio, where I talk about subjects such as the coronavirus, relationships, and of course, economies like socialism. Now, if you can't find me on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, you can always find me on Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to leave you with this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Thank you for listening to this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show. I want you to have a wonderful and blessed day. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. God bless you. I'm out.